We started talking about it. I really brought it up as far as interleague play. That was sort of the focus when Buddy and I started talking about it, putting Hop at DH and playing Anthony at first. And as we started talking about it, Buddy, well, shit, why not right now? And so that was probably like 4 or 5 days ago, and he really convinced me. Like I said, I was kind of focused on Minnesota as the best time to do it, and Buddy kind of moved me up about a week, and I think that's great.
What did you want to see from him in Tucson, aside from the great numbers he put up? What did you see him want to do?
He really faced a lot of lefties. That's something in his career I think he needs to work on. And I think when he finally got his OPS over 1,000 in AAA, we felt pretty good against lefties. So. But yeah, it was weird at the beginning of the year. He was over 400 batting average at one point, but I think he had faced maybe 80 or 90 at bats against righties and maybe 15 or 20 against lefties. So we wanted to even that out a little bit. And honestly, this is a guy who's a 21-year-old kid. He played about 3/4 of the year last year at AA. We just felt like we wanted him to get some seasoning. This is frankly ahead of the schedule we imagined when we acquired him. We thought he was a guy that if he pushed us could be a September call-up and probably help us in 2012. And he's played so well both in spring training and this year. He really forced us and pushed the clock. But going into the season, this wasn't the timing that we expected, and I'm proud of him for forcing us to make a move earlier.
What can you talk about his mental makeup since you've known him from Boston? What do you like?
He's a really tough kid and a kid that's very focused. Obviously, everyone always focuses on him beating cancer and the toughness that takes. But I think in a lot of ways, when we drafted him, our scout that signed him in Boston, he loved this kid's makeup. He was always positive, very competitive, very tough. So I think it's him beating cancer is remarkable, but I don't think that's really the focus when people talk about his makeup. I think that he's just a good kid, and a good competitor, and the kind of guy you want on a team.
What can you tell us about the medical report this morning?
No, it was fine. That was really me sort of wanting us to do our due diligence on his thumb before we did anything with him. Once we made the decision to call him up, talking to Buddy about it, no one ever, since AAA players are notorious for not being all that honest about their medical condition because they want to get called up. And he'd been on the medical report for 2 or 3 weeks with his thumb injury. He hurt it the first time when he was jammed by a pitch. Hurt it the second time when he bumped into an umpire actually and hyperextended it. And I had Jason McLeod call him maybe 5 or 6 days ago just to kind of ask him, are you okay? Are you healthy? And kind of got the typical answers. And so I thought it was best that we kind of put him through the paces of MRIs to make sure there wasn't anything serious in there. And he has a little bit of a bone bruise, but he's been playing well with it for a while. And we just wanted to make sure it wasn't something more serious that he was hiding.
Ideally, would you like him to open on the road so there's maybe a little less carnival around it?
No, that we talked about that, but I think it's good for the fans. I like the fact that people are excited to watch him play. I like the fact that there's a buzz about him coming up, and I sort of look at it. I hope it's the first of many times that we have a good young player that does well in the minor leagues, and people are excited to see. I hope it's not only because he was part of the Adrian Gonzalez deal. I hope it's because he's played exceptionally well in AAA, and that people are excited to watch him play, and that the same thing will happen when we call up future players if they have this kind of performance.
Was he at the park today, or did you tell him to stay away?
No, he came up here. We saw the doctors, and he was told to go to the hotel. Didn't think it was a great idea to have him hanging around here for you guys, So
You decided on your corresponding move?
we have potentially a few moves given some injuries today and things like that. So we'll probably figure that out in the morning.
How important was it for the team to be playing better when he came up?
That was a factor. We talked about it earlier. To be candid, there was conversations about bringing him up at times during May when we were really struggling. And I just didn't think it was fair to him, 100 plus play appearances into his career in AAA and with the Padres to bring him up to fix a team that was struggling. And now we're playing better today, notwithstanding. And I feel like I don't think he's a savior of a team now. I think he's coming up and he can be a part of something. And I'm glad Brad is. He's gone to the outfield. He's been a great teammate about it. I think he saw this coming and started taking fly balls, and it should work out well to our lineup. Hopefully, getting Nick back, getting Cam back early next week, we can start to put the lineup on the field that we expected. And I think we've kind of held our head above water well and actually thrived a little bit, despite the fact that we've been pretty banged up. And hopefully now we can get our regular lineup, our sort of on-paper lineup, if you will, out on the field. And once we do that, hopefully we can take off a little bit.
Would you see him platoon with Cantu?
No. We don't want him to be. I think for facing Clayton Kershaw or John Lester, that kind of player, I'm sure he'll get a day off, like almost any left-handed hitter. But that was one of the things that Buddy and I talked about is he's not going to play every single day, but certainly not bringing this guy up to be a platoon player. I think that we're bringing this guy up hopefully to be a Padre first baseman for a long time, and part of his development is hitting lefties, and we have to live with some of that. So I'm sure Buddy makes the lineup card out and he'll get some days off against some lefties, but not all the time.
Can I ask about tomorrow's lineup?
No.
Where would you expect Rizzo to be?
Somewhere between 5, 6, 7.
What's your reasonable expectations of this young man coming up?
Reasonable expectations. Statistically,
Yeah, and what you're looking for him out of
I'm
it.
looking for him to come up, continue to play his game. Be the player that we see. We've seen in spring training. Was a guy who's a young 21-year-old player who is coming up to the big leagues, and not to do anything more than what he's done throughout his career, from the time he signed his first contract. Our minor league people, our front office, think that this is the time for him to come up. He's had a good couple months in Tucson. We think that he can continue to swing the bat, play a very solid first base. So that's what we need. Him to have good at bats, play solid defense, become part of the group, be part of our lineup, and hopefully be productive.
Now, Jed had said he had pegged maybe the Minnesota series to bring him up, but you were very convincing. What did you do to Jed to bring him up, to convince him?
What did I do to Jed?
How did you convince Jed that now was the time for Rizzo?
Hey, listen, we've had a lot of conversations about Anthony, over the last, even going back to spring training. He's, of the new guys that come to our organization, we seem to talk about those guys a lot, whoever they may be. And, once he got off to a great start and carried it forward, the conversations continue, just like they do with all players. It's amazing. We talk about players all the time. That's what we do. And I just felt as though just talking to Jed, talking to Jason, talking to our coaches, talking to TK, Randy talking to Bob Scooby, that this guy's doing great. He's doing well. They think that he's going to come up here and continue to have good ABs.
Would you describe yourself as an advocate to bring him up earlier? It seemed to be Jed's pressure. You were persuading him against his own timetable.
Well, when I saw Anthony in the spring, I was impressed by the total game. I was impressed by the young man, by his overall presence, how he carried himself for a young guy. I thought that when everybody felt as though the time was right, I'm on board. There's no doubt we follow our players. We're following him. And, there were times when the media was calling for it. I wasn't quite convinced, but last 3 weeks or so, it's been pretty convincing just watching him on the follow through. Once he got into over 120, 125 at bats in AAA, looked as though his start was going to continue to be productive.
But because the PCLs can be problematic from an evaluation standpoint because of the ballparks, atmospheric conditions, whatever. Is that where you rely more on, even more so on, the opinions and the voices of others?
Yeah. We had Jed had seen him play, AJ had seen him play, Josh Burns had seen him play, TK saw him play every game, Bob Scooby saw him play every game. There's a number of people who thought that the way he played in spring carried over to the way his April went, and the way his May went, and the way his early June went. He's been consistent all the way.
What were your thoughts that first at bat in the inner squad game when he hit the ball off halfway up the screen in the center? I don't know if you remember that first.
I do. I want to see it again. Do it again.
I mean, that was a hellacious swing right on the bat.
That was good to see. It's better than the alternative of missing the pitch,
Missing the
back to
first
the
pitch.
pitch. Yeah.
Have you been watching video of him, or was your impression based on other people's scouting reports?
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of video on it. I've seen a couple at bats through our in-house system that we have in place in our minor league parks when they're at home. I haven't seen a huge sample of at bats, but most of it's based on others who have seen him live. It's also Dado, Loretta, Osmus, those guys have seen him as well, along with Josh, Jason, AJ, Jed, and the staff at Tucson.
Last season, did he suffer any slumps at all and work himself through that?
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else?
Buddy, when you talked to Terry Kennedy, what intangibles did Terry talk about aside from just the raw statistics?
No, he talked about just the daily at bats were good. He came to the park every day, worked hard, gave a great effort to prepare to play hard.